Hey Jer, I wanted to respond to your video about Jean Gebser and try to say something about this very pressing question which you raise. How are we to bring Jean Gebser's very erudite and at times fleeting insights about the nature of integral consciousness into the world so that they can transform it? Because, you know, reading what Gebser has to say about the passage of human consciousness through these various mutations of consciousness. And a mutation of consciousness is both a subjective and an objective uh, spatio-temporal relationship and manifold. It's a certain world constituting formation. And the archaic and the magic and the mythic and the mental, they are all present for us and we hope effective for us here, now, in the present. So for me to be conscious integrally would mean that I have owned and accepted and included the magic, the mythic, the mental, and the archaic dimensions or modalities or structures of my being and my knowing. Consciousness in German, I forget the word, but it means being knowing or knowing being. It's both a substance and, a transcendence, a process of actively including more and more through knowing. And I think when Gebser talks about being in truth, he's referring to this sort of being knowing, an inactive knowledge, a knowledge which is always also a doing. And so, when Gebser talks about the new forms of language which we must manifest, he says that the statement, rather than being interpreted as somehow pointing to something, is understood in itself as its own end. And so speech and letters take on a new significance, no longer merely signs, but their true potency as poetic, as creative, as world creating becomes recognized. And so speech becomes, just as the many myths about the origins of language seem to tell us, when humans learn to speak and begin naming the world, it's as if they create it again. It's a second creation event, a second Genesis. Because no longer is the world merely there, it is there for itself, as the human being who knows it as such, as this or that, as some sort of a classified system. So our words, when we enter into a more integral mode of being and knowing, become extremely important. The sort of idle chatter that Heidegger will talk about is really the greatest sin of our age, because our circumstances are so pressing, and yet we're still talking about entertainment, gossip, and we all do it, but it's draining, isn't it? So I want to read 3 paragraphs from chapter 10, where Gebser gives a summary of manifestations of the aperspectival world, because he says something here that is interesting in terms of what you were saying, Jared, that you recognized in Gebser's descriptions of integral consciousness and integral time as an intensity, qualitative intensity, you recognize the sort of Eastern, perennially Eastern view of time, timelessness and eternity. And I would say that I think Gibson's talking about something a little bit different, not just eternity, but eternity in time, which is less Eastern or Buddhist or Hindu than it is Christian. So I want to read let Gebser speak for himself here. The whole, which we dimly experience in magic, which becomes visible to us in the polarity of the world of descriptive imagery and the mythic, and which we attempt to conceptualize in a mental rational summation of parts, the whole becomes perceptible throughout all domains. Origin becomes present. Our recognition of the transfiguration, the transclarification of the world, sustained by religion, religio, the bond with the past, though increasingly disrupted by reason, is becoming a bond and obligation to the present, preligio. So religio becomes preligio. The mythic bond to the past is becoming a bond to the present. The profound Christian truth with regard to transparency, the diaphaneity of the world, becomes perceptible. The genuine eruption of the other side into this side, the presence of the beyond in the here and now, of death in life, of the transcendent in the immanent, of the divine in the human, becomes transparent. God's incarnation was not in vain. Religion intensified to preligio, and this is intended to circumscribe the profound Christianity of the integral consciousness structure without any theological claim, is presentiation of origin. So religion intensified to preligio, to a bond to the present, is presentiation of origin, the recognition of creation and creativity, and the integration of our lives as one of the numerous and meaningful forms revealing integrity or the whole. This new self-constituting consciousness structure discovers and surpasses the ultimate and most profound antithesis of rationalism between faith and knowledge, religion and science. Not only because it becomes gradually apparent to what an unsettling degree scientific theses themselves often emerge from presuppositions based on belief, even the world of numbers and their laws has a limited validity, applicable only to the materialized aspects of our space-time world, but also because antitheses of this kind are not reconcilable with the new consciousness structure. It is in the transparency of faith and knowledge, and not with their aid, that the sphere of being becomes perceptible in its entire diaphaneity. Yeah. So the shift into preligio instead of religio, bond to the present, not a bond to the past. I think it corrects the balance of the mental rational structure, which is just so focused on the future that it ignores fragmented and incoherent state of the present. It's totally unconcerned with the means and solely concerned with the end. An integral consciousness is more concerned with the present. Present becomes the most pressing concern. But the present isn't just now without past and future. The present is original, which is not just eternal, but eternity in time. A present which includes the past and is itself the future enfolded. The future is an intensity within us, not extended out there.